The velvet rope. We got to get right into things today because we have a very special guest in the studio with us. The one, the only. Sit down, folks. Jaime Gleicher. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes, it's Gleicher.
Now, well, first of all, welcome.
Do you think everyone's saying who?
That's exactly what I think everyone's saying. Yeah, I think
love
everyone.
that, actually.
I think yes, you
I
do,
love
right?
it, yeah.
I think everyone is saying what? No, everyone's like getting out their phone right now and they're Googling who the hell is Jaime Gleicher.
Yeah.
Do you think they would say?
Sometimes I do that too.
Now, do you think they would say the same thing if I said we have Ali Hilfinger? Maybe.
Maybe.
Now, here's the thing, guys. Put your phones away. We're going to explain who Jaime Gleicher is. I mean, we have a lot to say, but she is one half of the duo who starred in literally, this is a classic reality TV show called Rich Girls. Really, it was just called Rich Girls, and it was on one of the most prominent reality networks, I feel, like before Bravo, MTV.
Yeah.
So Rich Girls was a show, which is shocking that I believe it or not, sometimes I do some research. This morning, I was shocked to find this out, that Rich Girls was one season.
Yes, it was one season. Very exclusive.
Listen, I thought Rich Girls, like if you asked me, was on for like 7 years. Like nope. I remember loving the show and watching it. I didn't realize it was on from October of 2003 to December of 2003. Wow. And it followed the lives. Well, if you look at IMDb, it says it followed the lives of two wealthy 18-year-olds from New York City. So Jamie's like, Jamie's like, oh God. She's like, can we talk about anything? Listen, we're going to talk about lots of other things.
No, listen, it is a significant part of my life. I am now 35. I've done a lot of reflecting. I'm actually at this point writing a book on it. So I've really had to sit with my experience. I have a mother who saves everything. I have every email, everything. There's a lot of things that people don't know about how the show was created.
Well,
there was nothing that existed like it.
We're going to get into it.
There was no Bravo reality TV, and it started with my writing. Ali and I really created it, produced it, and then we were like, goodbye. And now you have a podcast about the Real Housewives, which actually like derived from what our show was.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't even tell you how many questions I have, but let's just take it back for a minute.
Sure.
So, all right, so tell me now about you. Like, people are always shocked when I ask this. Let's start with, like, birth. I mean, you don't have to tell me the hospital or the time of day, but, like, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Mount Sinai Hospital, 11:15. I know this because I just turned 35, and my mom always reminds me at the time of my birth.
So you're from New York City?
I'm from New York City.
Upper East Side?
We've been all over. Like,
really?
When I was born, my parents were in Murray Hill, actually, and then we moved to New Jersey for a little bit.
Where in New Jersey?
Bergen County.
Okay.
Tenafly.
Oh, I know
Alpine area,
Tenafly.
yeah.
Jackie Goldschneider from The Real Housewives of New Jersey currently lives in Tenafly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder what street. Maybe we.
And I'm really good friends with like Margaret Josephs. Like, I don't know if you watch New Jersey. She lives in Englewood, so I know Tenafly is right.
I didn't know that New Jersey Housewives made it that because it was Upper Saddle River and all that.
Yeah.
I always thought they should do a show about where I grew up.
The old school was like a lot of Franklin Lakes, which some people still there,
right.
but now they're all over. But Tenafly is very, and listen, I grew up between like New York and Connecticut. I didn't know from New Jersey before I became friends with all these wonderful women. And now sometimes I'm in New Jersey like 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah. Nice.
So because of that, I've learned Tenafly. It's a nice place to grow up.
It's a great place to grow up. Lived there until my bat mitzvah at age 13. My brother and I were both, I was into theater. My brother was a ballet dancer. We moved
Straight brother?
Straight brother.
Okay.
Moved back.
I was like, do you have a cute gay brother around 35 that I don't know about?
No.
Okay.
He's married now. He's straight.
I got excited for a minute.
So I was into musical theater. My brother was into ballet. We moved to New York City, and we went to a performing arts school. We're not a performing arts school, a school that is for kids in the performing arts.
Like the Fame School or something
It's not
different?
the Fame School. It was a private school. It's called Professional Children's School.
Okay.
And it's a private school for kids in the business.
Okay.
And that was where I met Ali. So lived a bunch of places in the city. and ended up going to college here.
So, okay, yes. So you went to this high school. So when did you go to this high school? Like, were you freshman? Like,
I went
young?
from my sophomore year to my senior year.
And
I was in another private school before that, and
so were you commuting into the city from New Jersey?
yes, for middle school I was.
These are the minor details that I need to know.
Yeah, and it was awful. I was like
Really?
bullied on the school bus. It was so awful.
Really?
Yeah, and then I found professional children's school, and
And this is where
awesome.
you met Ali.
And this is where I met Ali. We were both incoming sophomores.
So you were both incoming sophomores, and you became friends, and you met other people, and you became friends with other people.
Yes.
And you're living I would think some people from New Jersey coming into the city every day, this is like the big time to go to high school. No, not.
Well, we
not
moved.
Really.
I wasn't coming in.
Oh, okay.
No, I
Oh.
went to a private school up in the Bronx, in Riverdale, and then we moved to New York so that my brother and I could both pursue our careers and our interests.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then how do you... Okay, so you meet Ali and your friends, and how does this Rich Girls come about? You're in high school now.
So I'm in the 10th grade. I'm at the professional children's school, and
at this point, too, not to interrupt you, at this point, let's just give this context of reality TV. So, The Real World existed.
Right. So The Real World existed.
My Sweet 16 on MTV, that show. I thought existed.
Oh,
maybe
no,
not.
no.
Oh,
that
really?
that was also kind of a spinoff of us. Yeah.
Oh,
the
wow.
only thing that was really out there was the Osbournes
Okay.
and Newlyweds.
Okay, so really at this point, for all of you...
Ashley Simpson's show came after mine, same producer. We actually got the team from the Osbournes.
And there was no Bravo at this time.
No, was
Queer Eye?
was Queer Eye? Yeah.
I don't...
But
maybe.
it was around the same time. I remember after I did my show, I would party with them. But also, Carson and I would both go on, this is really not even I don't want to say pre-internet, but we would go every, I think it was either Wednesday or Friday when all the weeklies came out.
Yeah.
And we would go to this newsstand in my neighborhood, and we'd meet each other and be like, oh my God, what are they saying about us this week?
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. So it was really, this was really back old school. I always say, thank God. There really wasn't social media, but there was a lot of, online commenting. There was Gawker.com.
And, for all the millennials out there, just to put this in perspective, about how impactful this was. The Osbournes and Newlyweds on MTV were two, ridiculously huge shows.
Right.
The numbers, the ratings were huge. The Osbournes was, they were just such great shows. Everyone watched the Osbournes.
Yeah.
And everyone watched Newlyweds. So, you were at the equivalent of a Bravo. MTV was the place to go for reality TV.
And how it really came about was, Ali and I had this incredible, funny friendship. We were both very, very ambitious in our own different ways. I'm a little more bookish. She's a little more creative, or at the time, right? And I had dealt, when I was younger, when I was a little kid, with depression and struggled with my weight. And I was always, very studious, very smart, always a writer. And, my life looked so great. I was on student council and on my way to a top school, but I was also hospitalized for an eating disorder. I was, doing drugs when no one could see. I was self-harming. I really was in a really depressed, anxious place no one knew. And at the time, I was obsessed with watching Sex and the City.
Okay.
And there was a film that came out called 13 with Evan Rachel Wood.
I remember
and Nikki
that
Reed.
movie.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that Evan Rachel Wood was in that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I identified so much with both Sex and the City because it was this colorful Manhattan life and it was so fun, not in the sex way, but walking around the city with your friends, going to great brunch places.
Look, it put
dressing
cafeteria on the map.
The Fendi, the Fendi baguette, Magnolia cupcake.
Yes.
So that was half the life that I was living in the city. And then the dark side of me was this 13, where I was really incredibly depressed. And I started writing about it. And I
Like just in your own journal? Like
journal, but I wanted to. I've always been a writer ever since I was little.
okay.
It's always been like my coping skill, my passion, and I started writing like a young adult novel.
Okay.
Which really was a vaguely disguised memoir. I didn't know that term yet.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's
Yeah.
a lot at 17, 16,
And
15.
Ali was always my greatest supporter when I was going through my mental health struggles. And
she wasn't having similar struggles.
I mean, we all do. I'm not going to speak for Ali's struggles, but I was definitely, I feel, she saw both sides of me. So she really got that.
Got ya.
Right? And she was the friend who was always there through both sides of that.
Totally.
And once the summer before the show, I went to Nantucket with Ali, and we met a man who I think his name was Tom, the juice company. He was chatting with us at breakfast. We were sitting at adjacent tables, and he had bought Nantucket Television, MTV, which was at that time just like showing the weather and surfing.
Okay.
And he was chatting with us, and Ali and I had very dynamic personalities, and of course we were probably dressed in some crazy fun outfits. And he said, we want to make this a channel. Do you guys want to do a show? And Ali was like, yeah, I want to do an MTV Cribs for Nantucket. So
Wait, so you're just sitting next to this person at brunch?
Yeah.
And are you like, this person's full of shit, or?
Basically was like, why don't you guys discuss it, come up with an idea, and you'll do the show. And it was really, Ali had produced a film. Ali was getting into produce. So Ali was like, oh yeah, I'm on it. And I helped her write the idea. And we literally just got people, and we went into their house and asked them about their house. I mean, it was Nantucket. It was preppy seashells on the wall, like beach.
Oh.
So
this isn't even Rich Girls. This is like.
Oh, no. It was in the house with Ali Hilfinger.
Oh.
And I was behind the scenes producing it. It was just a little, I literally was like, oh wow, I can put this on my college applications.
Yeah.
This is fun.
And it was just for the summer because you were summering in Nantucket?
Yeah. Now that network ended up becoming Plum TV.
Okay.
Which I'm not sure if it's still in existence, but it was like a wealthy resort town. It became,
Okay.
It grew into something. This was in the early stages, and it was just called NTV at that time. And we got back to the city. We're in school, and New York Magazine wrote a blurb on it with just Ali. And Ali Hilfiger's done this. And then what happened?
And she had a name because of her father.
Yeah.
Just, because
that's
you don't just
a
get
fact.
in. Yeah.
It's just a fact.
Good or bad. You just don't get into New York Magazine.
She was the host of the show. I was just kind of along for the ride.
And for everyone out there, yes, Ali Hilfinger, it's Hilfinger. It's Tommy Hilfinger's daughter.
Yeah.
Just to give everyone, a background.
Yeah. So Ali got a call from a talent agent at MTV who saw the blurb, and that's the talent agent's job, is to say, okay, who's relevant, let's get them in, and saw, Ali Hilfiger and thought, wow, maybe a house of style, maybe who is this, right?
Right.
And had brought Ali in to meetings at MTV, and Ali did not necessarily want at the time she was kind of like, yeah, this is cool. But Ali never was the kind of girl who, was socially putting herself out there. She was just completely normal, did musical theater, produced films. She didn't call them, they called her, right?
Right.
And
she wasn't looking for fame.
No, not at all. But she took the meeting, and then and apparently in that meeting with the talent agent, she's like, they were exploring things, and she's like, yeah, well, who you should really talk to is my best friend Jaimes, because she's just got the brains behind. You should talk to her. And Ali knew also that I knew about people our age. I had my finger on what we were struggling with and what was going on, and so Ali was like, hey, you should go meet with this person with me. And at the time, it was also Ali and I were inseparable. It was
right, why not?
Attached at the hip. And so I went into a meeting a couple weeks later with Ali and this woman, Wendy McSwain, and we just hit it off. And she's like, do you have any ideas for the network? And I said, well, I'm writing, this book, which is almost like the secret lives of New York City teenagers.
Right.
Here's the first page. And
Which, listen, I mean, there was
I had it
Gossip
with
Girl,
me.
a scripted show after this, and there was New York City
So this was like a
Press.
real life Gossip Girl, only the Gossip Girl level of, well, Ali and I weren't on Fifth Avenue. We were, you know, a little grittier. We weren't.
Right. Because it made it out.
We weren't really ostentatious, you know.
Yeah.
And Gossip Girl was not even on TV. It was just the books. It was just the books.
Right.
So I gave Wendy the first page of my book, and she said it was like the best one sheet she had ever read. And I was like, well,
like,
what's
how old
the
were
one
you?
sheet?
Like 15?
I was 17.
Right. So most people don't have a chapter at 15.
What's a one sheet? And then her boss, the executive vice president at the time, Rod Issa, he happened to be in town from LA, and she called him and she said, you have to read this, get down to my office. And he read it, and he was like, this is the best one sheet I've ever seen. And I was still like, what's a one sheet?
Yeah.
I knew it was good. I knew that it was the great like intro to the book, because it was like, you know, it outlined really who I was, that I wear designer clothing and this and that, but like, I have bulimia and I'm, you know, really struggling, but I have to put it together to get into college and all this stuff, right? And then the show, it just kind of evolved.
Like they said, here's our idea. Like, let's have it be about the two of you.
No, not at all. So they loved it. They loved the idea. And then my vision from it, and I have all these old emails of what I wanted the show to be. I was very into documentary film. And I believe at the time True Life was on. True Life was definitely on. And so I wanted like a True Life like that.
Right.
Or some sort of documentary. I've always been, believe it or not, from what's out there, like very intellectual. When I was in the 10th grade, when I was struggling with my eating disorder, I became very into women's studies and reading Naomi Wolf and Elizabeth Wurtzel and really, you know, trying to uncover like what's wrong with society that's causing all these problems, because I was not the only New York City teenager that had this other side.
Right.
Right. And keeping it like,
right.
You know, we had to keep it all together, but a lot of us were crumbling on the inside.
Right.
I think I actually used that term in the
I mean, and that's,
sheet.
you know, like there is something about like how New York City youth grows up with wealth. There is this stereotype that there then is like drugs and fast partying, and, you know, like you have like a Bethany Frankel who was like at the clubs at like 13, you know, just there is something there.
Yeah. And it was almost, you know, if you look at Sex and the City and the movie 13, it was like those were the two parts of my life that were coexisting. This like very dark in my bedroom kind of screaming, crying, and
so when MTV was like, let's make this a show, a reality show,
but it didn't even happen like that. It wasn't even like a reality show. It was like, what could this become? It wasn't like there was a genre, right? It was reality television, but it wasn't so defined. Like today, if you're like a reality show, you have so many different genres and shows. But so they had asked us to take a camcorder and show us. They gave us a camcorder, and they were like, oh no, they didn't. I think we might have used my mom's until they gave us one, and they said, record your life. Right? Nowadays, you could do it with your smartphone. Everyone's doing it on their Instagram story, right?
So there's no contracts or anything. They're just
nothing.
Like, go out
they
and
said,
do
just
your
go
life.
see, because, and again, Ali and I are incredibly ambitious. Ali had been on Broadway. Ali had done a film. I wanted to be on Broadway. All I want at this point is to like get into my dream school, which is Barnard College. I'm like extracurricular, something with MTV.
So you went and recorded your life.
So we went and recorded our lives and our friends and this and that.
And you brought it back.
They're like, this is great. It wasn't supposed to star Ali and I. We wanted to be the producers of it.
Okay.
The name of the game for us was producer.
Which
right?
is really
that's
a
what
great
we wanted.
way to go for
and
a lot of people.
And I think that's important. I think it says who Ali and I both are, and how that almost like a game of telephone, we became known as something else, but we just wanted to produce something.
So you bring it to MTV.
It kept getting greenlit and like another step in the show. Hey, we'll do a pilot. We couldn't get our cast of characters. Our friends were into it, right?
Yeah.
Their parents, nobody would sign a release form.
Right.
I do believe MTV really wanted the two of us from the beginning, of course,
Right.
you know?
So everyone's
and not even
parents
just for
were
me.
like, "You're 14, you're not doing a reality, you know, whatever it is."
Yeah, we had some
don't
14-year-olds,
want.
we had some 18-year-olds, but
Right.
there was nothing to compare it to. And, you know, a lot of our friends also were wealthy and private and, you know,
Right.
no. So long story short, and long story meaning like my book's at 300 pages and not finished yet.
Yes.
MTV offered us a green light if we were the stars and we were producers, and we would have the Emmy Award-winning crew that had just wrapped the Osbournes.
Which is major. Right. They're like, we're going to green light this, but we want the two of you to
So
star.
it was, you know, we had to star, but we had producer, and we had we had editing rights, which is unheard of.
That's
unheard of. And I talk in the book about how that was very strategic on them to get us to do the show. And also there was some manipulation in, you know, hey, keep this in. It might win an Emmy Award, when Ali and I were uncomfortable with something being in the show.
Right.
So
you guys both agreed. Your parents agreed.
yeah,
Contracts
and
were signed.
it happened really, really fast. You know, we had both in the process of doing the pilot and all that turned 18. Tommy was really all for it. My mom was really all for it. My
Why were
dad
they
kept
for it?
like smiling at just. I think they were just the only ones who like really understood like what it was.
Right.
And I mean, I remember like 3 months later, I show up at my dad's house with a camera crew, and he opens the door. He's like, kind of, what's this?
Right.
You know, like you say you're doing something,
Yeah.
right? But reality show was not even.
Right.
And
like the Osbournes
right.
and Newlyweds, I mean, they were famous before.
They were famous before, right?
So there is a difference.
We had, yes, Ali, you know,
Has
her
a famous
father's
father.
famous, right? But we really started the idea of looking at, you know, like this wealthy lifestyle. Like, let's look at what it's really like.
Right. So
yeah,
sign
and that was us.
contracts and you start filming.
Yeah.
What is the filming? Like over 6 months, 3 weeks? Like
it was
around?
It
Just
was,
curious.
We started filming around our high school prom, so it was the end of May, and we wrapped up in September with my going to Barnard. Got in, spoiler.
Yes.
And
you did.
the camera crews followed me there, and that was, I think, they followed me 1 week into college, and that was early September. And then the show came out. I believe it was right before Halloween. We were in LA, 28th, I think, of October 2003.
So, like, during filming, were you guys like, okay, this is what we expected? Or were you like, oh my
no.
God, the cameras are
no.
here?
Oh, no.
Like, how so?
Not at all. I mean, little things, you know. I mean, they filmed us 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. We had 1 day off, which was
Right.
Monday.
I mean, that's similar to, like, Housewives now.
Yeah. You know, you're wearing a mic pack. I don't know. I mean, this is very early. I don't know if they've made mic packs small enough now that it's not unflattering in front of your you know, it was just like
they have not.
You lived with a mic pack. You had to tell everybody when you were going to the bathroom. You know, it was like you know, and there were things that you needed to do. Our show really was not scripted.
Right.
There were little things that my show was edited. And I think that's the difference.
Right. Like, did you ever feel like producer manipulation or?
Well, it got tricky with us because we were producers, right? So
which that
my
is
associate,
insane.
Yeah, my associate producer would say, like, I struggled in a relationship on the show with a friend, you know, and then when I had gotten into like I'd ended the friendship on the show, and then when I got into college, like the last week of filming, they were like, hey, you should really call him. It would be good for continuity. As a producer, you should probably do this, right?
Right.
Another instance of manipulation was the first day of filming. We met at the MTV offices. It's like a hurrah, hurrah, let's go.
Right.
And they wanted to incorporate my writing into the show. So, you know, for the pickup interviews, they were going to show me writing and that we read from our journals. Like that was something that I loved about that.
Right.
Not sure if Ali was so thrilled, but that was me, that I was always
Right.
writing and like here. And they are gift, or, you know, morning of gift was a Louis Vuitton journal. Like I wouldn't have been, I wasn't that ostentatious. Like I wouldn't have been writing in a Louis Vuitton journal.
I'll
So
take the Louis Vuitton journal.
I still have it. I
mean, I
with
love
with
Louis.
all my journal stuff. in it.
Everyone
I
who
have all
listens
the
to
writing.
this show knows
Yeah.
I'm all about the Louis and the Gucci.
Yeah. So thank you, MTV. But that's what I mean. And then
And was there like, hey, you guys, this is it.
Well-
you're going to be famous.
Well-
You're going to be, you know, richer.
So no, not necessarily. I mean, so that morning too, so they give us the Louis Vuitton journals, and then Ali and I were going prom dress shopping, and we go downstairs and there's a limo waiting for us. And Ali and I were like, we're not taking that. We don't ride in limos.
Right.
Right? And they were like, well, in order to fit the camera crew, we have to get a limo, which was a lie because camera crews make it work. If you're in a cab, they make it work.
Right. They wanted it.
They wanted the visual of the two of us. So the first episode, we're
Yes.
driving around in a limo. Ali and I were mortified. Like we would never, ever. We were like taking the subway and walking and this. And so, there was a lot of stuff like that. If we have to make it, we have to give the people what they want.
Did the show have a working title at this point that they shared, or was it right from the beginning?
Ali and Jaimes show.
Okay.
The title was something that happened towards the end. We were told that we had privileges. Ali and I would spend nights brainstorming the titles. They turned all of them down. And one day I looked at the call sheet, which I wasn't necessarily, because I was on talent, so I wasn't, and it said Rich Girls on it. And I remember.
Did you go crazy?
Yeah, there was nothing at that point
to do.
We were, Ali and I were, oh my God, I can't believe.
Were you
we're
guys
more than that.
Mortified?
Yeah, it was mortifying. It still is mortifying. David, I met you, and occasionally I'm recognized, right? But what I get, so David and I'll tell everybody, we met at our friend Orfeh's show, and we were backstage.
Orfeh and Andy Carl, who are Broadway legends. For all of you who listen to this show who only know about reality TV, believe it or not, this audience is very diverse. So
go to the theater.
Yeah. So Orfeh is a legend, and her husband Andy Carl, and they are a Broadway power couple.
They're incredible.
And I know her through Kim D, who I don't know if you know. Kim is on The Real Housewives. She was on The Real Housewives, so she's a very good friend of mine.
I know who Kim is.
And she knows Orfeh very well. So we were backstage.
Orfeh and I met through our dog rescue, but Orfeh actually knows which one?
I was wondering how you knew Orfeh.
No, but also she's friends with the associate producer of Rich Girls. So
is that how you met her way back? Or just recent?
Just a couple years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we met backstage at Orfeh and Andy Carl's show.
Yeah, and you were like, hey, you look so familiar, and then you thought that I was Girl with No Job.
I did.
Claudia, right?
Oh my God, I totally forgot that. Does it? Because you look like
with
her.
Yes. Actually, we went to the same summer camp, but
oh, really?
I don't know her. I was older.
You do look like her.
I think she's great, but it happens when people are trying to place me and say, oh, you look so familiar. And this isn't a tangent. It has to do with the title. I know exactly where you must know me from, right? I mean, you're with Kim D. I know. But I can never, ever tell someone, oh, I was on Rich Girls. I'm not the kind of person anymore to even say, oh, you must have seen my show.
Yeah, because you didn't really say that.
I don't do that.
You kind of checked me and were like, well, I mean, you said, who do you think I am?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Yeah, no, in like a nice way.
How do you think we know each other? But I definitely, get that a lot, especially back in the day. But I'm very quiet and humble, and I kind of try to put that time behind me, so I'm never going to be like, did you see my show?
No, you were and then I admitted Claudia, and I was afraid to say it because, listen, I mean, it's also embarrassing when you're like, are you this person? And you're like, what the fuck? But you do look like her, but then you said no, and I said, okay, sorry. And then you said, well, what do you do? And then I told you, and you're well, I'm kind of related to reality TV. Listen, I got it out of you. And I think then you said I was on this show. Yeah. And as soon as you said Rich Girls, which, listen, a lot of people would say, what? I basically then had a breakdown. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. And now you need to come and sit down behind the velvet rope. Yeah. And you're like, really?
Here I am.
It was so long ago. No, you were very
Right.
humble. And I was like, no. This is like the granddaddy of, listen, there's a lot of granddaddies of reality TV.
Absolutely.
But I mean, also, like, okay, it's literally Gossip Girl was a scripted show, which came later, way later, but that was similar. And there is a Bravo show, New York City Prep.
Oh, that was after us.
Yeah, that's
In
what
fact-
I mean. Like, these were
in
all
fact,
after you guys. You were technically the same exact story.
NYC Prep is actually very cute. That was years later.
Yeah.
And my friend from the show, Mike, his little brother, Danny, was on that show. So it was like, oh,
Really?
cute. Yeah.
Interesting. So you did say that, and that's when we met, and
Yeah.
then we're like, you need to come on here. So, yeah. So what were we? That is true.
Which was strange for me because I never talk about this.
It wasn't like
I left the scene. I don't do interviews rarely.
what was it about me? You just felt that I was so wonderful.
No, well, yes, you were very, very kind. I actually, I had mentioned I'm writing my memoir right now, and I have to get used to owning what my life story is, which is being on a reality television show. And for so long, I was so ashamed. I think it was the title. It was the fact that I hated myself on camera. I was very bullied, that I've really tried to suffocate this. And it's time to start owning it. This is my story. I did have a very big hand, along with Ali, in creating an incredible genre. And incredible meaning, I think, the size. And I don't, I have my own feelings about, now that I'm a psychotherapist,
which we're going to get
what
into.
I've contributed to in terms of, the mental health of, those who are on shows and whatnot. But it's, I have to. This is who I am.
It's like
it's who I was, but it's always going to be a part of me, and it's who I am now, who I'm very, very proud of. I wouldn't have gotten here without going through my awkward teenage years, in front of America and the world, whatever.
That's
whoever watched it. I don't know.
I watched it. I think a lot of people watched it.
No, I just meant I don't know if it went international, but I do know it lives like in the depths of YouTube. So.
Now, after it came out, like besides running down with Carson Kressley, your BFF, to see the dailies, did your life change? Like, were you now recognized going into like Bloomingdale's or to get Starbucks?
Everywhere.
Was it like a high level of fame? You know what I mean? Like, were you like, oh my God, there's Jaime and Ali, or there's Jaime? I mean, especially like, I would assume if you guys went out together.
We didn't.
Really?
Yeah. So Ali, Ali is a book. Ali had very bad Lyme disease.
Yes.
And she wrote a book about that. Ali was dealing, and I won't get into with her own personal struggles. And as a result, our friendship ended. And
that was one of my. So your friendship ended like what? Right after the show?
Yes, we were in LA for the premiere, and then after that, we watched the episodes before they were aired because we had the editing rights, but we never watched the show together aside from the premiere. Yeah.
So when the show aired, you guys were already kind of broken up.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah.
And well, that must have been sad in a way that was one of your good friends.
It was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. So as I'm, if you look, there are all these old press pictures of me and Ali went, and got her treatment. And I was kind of left after this friendship breakup, doing all this press for the show, which was in my contract.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Ali was like my confidence, crutch.
Did you do press together or no? It was you.
We did it before the show aired.
Okay.
So we had a whole, we had a lot of press to do, in October,
which is in the contract.
We filmed our commercials, and then after the show, there was still, to promote.
And was that awkward? Like you were already kind of broken up when you had to do press together, or
no, I did it myself.
Okay,
Ali didn't do any of it.
Wow.
Ali was away, and so it was just me. And then, I was going out and parties and this and that, and then one night I was at Mary J. Blige's birthday party. I remember this so well, with Lindsay Lohan, who was a friend of mine through the scene that I was now a part of, which I I talk about in my book, I never really should have been a part of. Like,
And you still talk to Lindsay?
I was just like, no, I don't still talk to Lindsay.
Like back in the day.
Back in the day, but
She's
I remember,
a nice Long Island girl.
Yeah. And then I remember we were at Mary J. Blige's birthday, and Diddy came. I don't even know if he was Diddy then. Maybe he was still Puff Daddy. Came up to us, and someone had snapped a picture. And then the next day, it was on the cover of, like, it was the big photo on Russian Malloy. Does that still exist in the New York Daily News?
Excuse me.
So it was a photo of, like, me, Diddy, and Lohan, and some publicists reached out to me, and then I had gotten my own publicist and went into this. Okay, let me try to form a career out of this. Let me produce them, and that contributed to my own psychological decline.
So you were going through all these issues. So like the show airs, you guys are not friends. You're doing press now, and all of this. So like the depression and eating disorder. Like I know it was on the show, but this still continued like right after.
Oh yeah, throw in substance abuse, because I have to. I was very, very. I would read the comments that people would leave on websites.
Oh, they're horrible.
And so much of it had to do with my appearance. In fact, when we were doing the show, I very badly wanted to talk about my eating disorder as I was going through it. It was a huge part of my life and my recovery, and it was actually a very, very big running narrative, like, of the show and what was going on, and I would talk about it in the interviews that we would do. And then after watching the episodes and seeing myself on camera, I had I was like, scrap it all. And they were like, what? I was like, and that was really, part was the part that I think was very much me. Like, I wanted to help someone by doing the show. I wanted other girls to see.
Well, we're going to get into that in a minute, too.
I said, scrap it. I cannot be talking about having an eating disorder, like looking that. I mean, this was my own, real illness coming out. And it was actually, I think, a really, really good thing that I didn't at the time. I don't think that I could have handled it. But I was reading messages online, Jaime's so fat, she's so ugly, she should just kill herself. Like, really, really, I mean, we're talking.
And can you imagine now with social? It's horrible.
It's awful. So in order to get out there and be on a red carpet after reading I'm fat and this and that, I was doing drugs. I didn't feel like it was torturous for me. Right.
And so the show aired, and you're going through this, and now you got into Barnard, which we saw on. So the show aired from October to December. Were you now in Barnard?
I was in Barnard.
Okay.
I was in Barnard.
So
I did
you
my
were
whole
going
first
because
semester.
Barnard's not easy to get into, people here.
No, and
we have a quote later about that. Well, we have a lot to get to, even though I'm watching the time. Everyone.
Okay.
But
tell me to shut up.
No. This is all. So you are in Barnard, but now you're doing press.
Right. So
and then you now on red carpets? Like, were you going to like Diddy's party, Mary J's party before all of this?
No, this was all no.
Like, I mean, you get on a hit show and then your life does change.
And no, I was not going to any of this before. I mean, I would go.
But once you're on a show, I mean, the invites come. That's how it works. Mm-hmm. So you were at Barnard.
Especially after, I'd gotten my own personal publicist. She'd basically like come over with like this boat and be like, what do you want to go to this week? And
that's how it works.
Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
But
you're on a show.
I always felt like such a fraud.
Really?
Always felt like such a fraud.
And like when you were in your classes at Barnard, were people like, okay, well tonight I'm going to, the local Columbia dorm party, and you're like, well, I'm going to Mary J's party and I can bring one of you, I guess.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what happened. Right?
Okay. I gotta say, this is what
I did go to the local college bar.
Right.
Yeah, it was a very strange time. So I,
did you
by second semester, I decided to take a semester off to pursue my quote unquote career.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, were you tempted by maybe the fame, maybe the potential money, and did you ever think of leaving Barnard? Like, this life is great.
Never leaving Barnard.
Okay,
but a break. So I did take a semester off.
And try to pursue what? Like acting?
So, no, they wanted me to do my book, right? Thank God I didn't, because now I'm in Barnard and I have all these writing classes to take, which is why I went to Barnard. I'm like, wait, I'm not putting a book out, right? I just did a show, and it was the best decision I ever made. There were agents and publishing houses who were like, well, ghostwrite. I was like, absolutely not. I will never, ever have a ghostwriter for my book. People were wanting to capitalize on it. I was signed up to do like a T-shirt line, like the silliest T-shirt line. Like, I'm really very lucky that a lot of this,
this is how it works.
I broke down and ended up going into a hospital. I'm so glad that I didn't. I really would have been shortchanging myself. The publicist was getting me to go to like Africa with the Red Cross, like, because it would be good for like, it was so at that time it was like,
because it's the thing,
oh my God, like they're making me into, and nothing was authentic about it. So I had taken that semester off to work, and really what that was doing the work but not really being in the work, like
And then did Rich Girls not come back because the ratings weren't good, or because you and Ali fell out?
Mm-hmm.
That's really the main
still
reason.
to this day don't really know what happened with it. Ali was very sick. It wasn't happening. I don't know if someone on that end put the kibosh on it. I do know that that the ratings were great, and
I was upset. I mean, I think it was a great show.
I think it would have, right? But then from us, Laguna Beach,
the
Hills, so they took the idea, Sweet 16, all of that came after us. While there was never, I don't think there was ever an offer, because I think Ali and I had made it very clear to them that wasn't
I mean, The Hills
especially
is this show with a lot more characters in LA per se.
Yeah. But the
More or
city,
less.
all of
Yeah,
that. But really what came after us was Laguna Beach. Only Laguna Beach, they decided to film like a television show with hair and make, with all that stuff.
And we know how that turned out. That was a huge,
it was huge. We were, no hair and makeup, nothing, like.
Right, the real deal.
Like, our camera quality was not, it was very interesting. We were like very, very bare bones.
I thought Sweet 16 came before this. So that is a byproduct of this.
Yeah.
As well. So you took this semester off, you're going out. What is one thing, like, is there anything that, like, what's just one experience that someone would be like, oh my God? Well, saying,
God, I don't even know.
Well, like, to me, Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever he was called at the time, and Mary J's party is kind of like, oh my fucking God. Like,
yeah, that was cool. That was it. I would go to Butter. I loved Butter. We'd all go dancing at Butter.
And you were, in with the other reality stars, the Carsons of the world, if you will.
Yeah, it was a crazy, crazy time. It's interesting because most of my book is done, and this is the hardest part to really write about also, because like.
And I appreciate you talking, because I know this is like something you don't talk about.
But there are a lot of people, even with the Ali stuff, like our story is so intertwined, but her story is not my story to tell. Like, she wrote a book, she spoke about, the end of our all that. But I'm not telling anyone's story. I'm not there were so.
And then during this semester off in this fabulous life and Red Cross and all this PR that didn't feel like you then what? Checked yourself into a hospital during this semester off? For depression or
no, I went back to Barnard thinking that I could do it in the fall, and then I ended up leaving because I was just so sick. I have not crazy story, like really like terrifying, traumatic stories. I had a Me Too moment, incident, traumatic event that happened that will all be in my book. There's really dark stuff.
And then in the hospital,
I was, contemplating suicide very seriously. I'm very lucky in many ways. I was very reckless. With drinking or self-harm, that I'm actually in my eating disorder, that I'm still alive, and I made it through. I was very, very sick.
And going for this help, like, it helped. You figured, I'm not saying this happens overnight.
It was a process,
But you were able to come out the other side of it.
Yeah, but I also had to come out the other side and not go back into this world.
Yeah.
I had to, it was not good for me. And I'm very, very
You're lucky.
Lucky that I was able to say, because, you know, you had asked, was any of it of course, fame
It's a drug.
is addicting.
It's a drug.
It is the most powerful drug.
Yes.
There was such a high. You know, if you'd be on a red carpet and people would like want your name, right? But then there was like shame if someone else came and like, or they didn't want you, or you walk out of a restaurant and like you see paparazzi there and like, you know, 2 months later they would shoot you, but then you walk out and nobody knows you. I mean, like that.
Right. They want you until Nicole
Kidman. Like that just fucks with your head and your
yes.
self-esteem and your self-worth. And I know it sounds, but it's you know, it's one of those things that like, you know.
And those people don't know you. They don't know who you are as a human being.
They don't know who I am, but it was just like, you know, this feeling of like, wow, the pinnacle of me was when I was on this show and my star is just fading. But like, I'm 18. That like, I had just become an adult. I had no other accomplishments or anything. It was
it
just
fucks with your mind.
This.
Yeah.
And so I just, you know, cold turkey, like, that's it. And a lot of that also felt like the world saw me as a failure too.
Right.
Oh, she was, you know, not good enough or this or that, or no one cared about her, or not cool, whatever, all that dialogue in my head. I could not be in it.
I could see that. And this, I mean, I
and I did
totally
feel like
that.
I needed to check myself in and go away for months in order to get out of it, because the temptation was like so great to just drop everything.
Right. I could see all of that, you know, and I do think fame is like a drug. So you did all this. It was a process. It did not happen overnight. And you came out the other side of it, which is amazing. And then you're still in Barnard, graduate from Barnard.
So I take time off from Barnard to a couple years, actually, 2 or 3 years, to focus on my mental health, get myself together. I did not. It's really interesting. The only real interview I've given about this show was a couple years ago to Barnard's part of Columbia University, to a magazine that they do. And there were actually rumors online that are like still there that say like, did Jaime drop out of, like, was Jaime kicked out of Barnard? She must have been so stupid because the show edits stupid, you know?
Right.
And no, absolutely not. I took the time. I felt
Good
like it would
you.
be when I started Barnard, when I was doing the show, right? The person I was when I applied to Barnard, you know, before the show, we started doing the show, and the person, which was in the fall, then the show was, you know, conceived, and then it was filmed, and then Barnard, I was a completely different person, and it would have been such a disservice to stay at Barnard while I was, quote unquote, like rich girl Jaime.
Right.
It just was not who I was, and so I really needed that time. Went back to Barnard.
Graduated.
And
you always knew you wanted to be a psychotherapist?
Absolutely not.
Really?
Oh, no. My gosh. I have been in therapy since I was in kindergarten. There, in no way, shape, or form was that ever an idea. It wasn't even an idea when I was like hospitalized and in psychiatric hospitals.
But one day.
Well, I'm a writer. I love writing. I studied English literature. I majored in creative writing. What I did for a living was really look at themes and characters and analyze that. And you just don't like publish a book and become a writer.
No.
And so I was very interested in psychology because I had been in hospitals, and I always wanted.
Right.
I always had this thing when I was filming the show. I wanted to be on the side of the crew. I wanted to be behind the right, and I always felt that like when I was in a hospital, I wanted to be like one of the clinicians, like treating the patients and talking, not like be the one who's like being forced to eat something, right? And so it just, and then I was in a lot of therapy and treatment programs, and then one of my therapists had asked me to mentor some high school kids who had mental health problems, and then it just became organic. And upon graduation at Barnard, I went straight into social work school at NYU to get my clinical social work degree in psychotherapy. And
you love what you do now?
I love what I do. I'm in a group private practice.
Do you specialize in any particular?
I do. Behavioral therapy. So I'm trained in dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy.
What's that? I mean, it sounds impressive. Have you been analyzing me this entire time,
Jaime? The whole
Jamie?
time. So dialectical behavioral therapy Well, cognitive behavioral therapy is great. Anxiety, depression.
Okay.
Dialectical behavioral therapy is actually the evidence-based treatment, the most effective treatment for those with self-harm and suicidal thinking and urges. So I work with some.
I mean, it has to make you a great therapist that you've dealt with some of these issues, I would think.
I think
mean,
so.
what the hell do I know? But I assume
listen,
that's
something
gotta...
that I needed to learn when I got into school for being a psychotherapist was that, like, my own experience does not a therapist make, right? Just because you live it. But I've definitely been on the front lines. In fact, the creative dialectical behavioral therapy, Dr. Marsha Linehan, she just came out with her memoir, which is about how she struggled with self-harm and suicidal thinking, which is exactly what I did. And I think it does make me, I'm very empathic, right? But no one's stories are the same. So I cannot say, hey, this worked for me or this worked for me. I can just listen and, and the treatment is very regimented and by the book. And, it's incredible. I feel very, very lucky, to be able to do this work.
Yeah.
But it almost didn't.
I mean, you love what you do.
I love what I do. I almost didn't do it because I wondered if I should even go to grad school for this, if anyone would ever hire me as a therapist.
Well, that was a question
if they
I
Googled
had.
me.
Well, I literally was just going to ask
Who doesn't
that.
Google if they're going, to see a therapist? Don't you want to know?
100. I mean, it wouldn't turn me off, but I was literally just going to ask you that. So does that ever come up?
Yes. So my first couple of jobs in the industry were with people who I had worked with before, who knew who I was. Right. Who trusted in my abilities, right? It wasn't like I was cold calling, therapy practices and jobs, right? And, listen, when you're, I'm a licensed New York State social worker, like there's background checks and this and that, right?
Yeah.
So I never, I was lucky to have people hired,
That's good.
in my circle. And then my mentor, who I had met, kept telling me to come in because she's in a private practice, and I kept saying no because I didn't think she knew about the show. And she's a very, very well-known psychotherapist, and I just, she kept saying, hey, come on in, I want to interview, like, come in, and I was just so embarrassed. And then finally one day she's like, we're having lunch. Come in. And she was recruiting me, and I said, this is Jen Hartstein, Dr. Jen Hartstein. I'm in her practice today. And I said, do you know about this? She says, I know you. I don't care. So what?
I mean,
so what? So
who
what?
Cares?
Right? But I said, well, aren't you worried when people call, like, what are you going to say? And she said, no, we'll get to that if it happens.
Yeah, that's good.
Maybe a few times has
that's
a
good.
parent of a child that comes to see me questioned. Rarely
has
does
someone
anyone
ever
say,
come to see you that's a fan and is like, oh my God, you were on
no,
Rich Girls?
not a fan. No, there have been clients who, like, through our work, say, oh, I found that on YouTube or this or that, and you know what, we talk about it. I'm like, okay, what do you want to know, right?
Yeah.
And I'm happy to talk about it to the extent that it benefits them, right?
Of course.
I've had some clients who actively seek me out because they know that I understand,
certain issues. And today,
and if it works against me, those are probably the people who don't call.
Right.
And
I mean, I would think it's been long enough that year, but it's just that was my natural
some
question.
Clients, they, when they bring it up, I think it's, change is the only constant. And I think what better example than, like, you can become, you can, end a behavior, end a career, and find something new. I mean, I'm very, very proud of that.
You're a good Where Are They Now reality TV story.
I guess I am, and you got me first.
I seriously, I feel so. See, like, you know, people are always like, "How do you book your guests? How do you?" And like, sometimes you just got to go out at night and have a drink.
But I actively, I don't seek that out. I don't seek out the Where Are They Now. And
you didn't. Listen, I'm the one that
team-
pushed you
right.
into a corner backstage at the Orfeh in the dressing room and
and
said,
the team behind, you know.
and when you said Rich Girls, I said, I'm going to be in touch. And you're like, okay, whatever. And then
and
you
then
didn't
you
realize
followed
I was
up
going to
and-
follow up like 10 seconds
And then I like
later.
look at your Instagram, like, oh my God, he's a big deal, you know?
Right. Thank you.
You know, it's time for me to, you know, get back out there in that way. My book is, you know, everything's out there. And
that's good.
You
And
know,
you
the
don't watch
team behind
reality.
my book is very much so like you got to start, you know, reminding people who you are, you know.
You don't watch reality TV now, right?
No, I don't even have a television now.
You know what? You're better off.
I did watch it for a while. You know, the old school New York Housewives. I loved Beverly Hills, like the first couple seasons. Quite honestly, my television started like breaking, and people kept coming to fix it, and I was like, you know, to go in New York City to like go buy a television, then you got to get it shipped in a building, get it hooked up, and this and that, and I was still getting like my cable bill, which was like $250 a month, and I was like, I'm just not gonna have a TV. At the time, there was Netflix and Hulu. Like, I didn't need a TV, so I don't have a TV. I do watch, you know, but no, I don't really watch reality television at all.
That's good.
Yeah.
I have three very quick closing things.
Okay.
Now, right.
I'm cringing.
I
see
know.
your phone.
Listen, you have to humor me. You have to humor me.
All right.
But listen, there's some of these are very fortuitous, so I'm not going to read them all because a lot of them are Ali. But this is in 2013. 10 years later, BuzzFeed did a list. The 19 most ridiculous things said on MTV's Rich Girls. Ali and Jaime. Now, I know you're cringing. Like I said, you have to
it's funny.
me.
You know what? I'm able
It's
now.
funny.
with life. You know, like it's funny, and I'm happy to explain. We were 18. If you
Listen,
recorded the shit that you said, you know what I mean?
Oh God,
it's
of
funny.
course. So
Let's
number
go for
one,
it.
and these are in no particular order.
Okay.
Number one, Ali Hilfinger, who's the daughter of Tommy, said, "My dad invented cargo pants. He invented them." Jaime, which is you, this is what you said in response on cargo pants. People buy cargo pants in the Midwest, not to say, oh, I could wear these with stilettos and a sexy top. They buy them because they have a lot of pockets, because they like work in the fields and they like need them.
Yeah, that'll never let me know. So
I just listen. I'm
so
just telling you.
you know. So there was also
I think
an element. Hold on, there was, you know, not. I don't mean hold on, but we were also producers, and we knew that being silly and saying stupid shit. By the way, that was in the Hamptons, and definitely had a drink in me. We weren't supposed to show it, but like, you know, we would order wine and put it in, you know.
Yeah.
So can't say I was like completely sober during that moment. But, you know, Jessica Simpson did the chicken and tuna.
Yeah.
And that, you know, like,
it went viral.
We knew that like that was the stuff.
Right.
Us being silly and like not caring. Like I had
course.
editing rights, right?
Right.
I saw that. And I didn't, you know, MTV's like, oh, don't take that out. It's funny,
It's
right?
amazing.
Yeah. So do I wish I took it out?
Listen,
Yeah.
this is not a criticism. This is just,
I know, but I take it because I'm like, oh my gosh.
This is
I'm
the
not
opposite
that.
of a criticism. This is me
I
being
know,
like.
but when it's you and, you know,
I know.
like I'm not that stupid.
Can I? Okay, so we're not going to read all of these because there's 19 things.
Okay,
I'm
do the
focusing
good
just
ones.
on you.
Okay, yeah.
But listen, there's a lot of things you say in here
Focus on
which,
me.
well, then there's certain things you say which kind of like foreshadow your future. This is Jaime, and we're on number 6 because we're skipping all of Ali's stuff. Jaime on the thing no child has ever said. Whoever said that going off to college is a sad thing clearly did not go to Barnard. Okay, I mean that's not. I don't think that's so bad.
I was so obsessed with. I love
Barnard's a great fucking school.
I'm still close with my writing. I love Barnard so much. I've been up there a bunch lately.
I mean, it's no joke.
I love it. I'm so proud to have gone to Barnard.
So I I mean, here's one. I think this is funny. Ali on Total Despair. And this is Ali at 18. I miss my childhood so much. That's kind of funny. It's like, you are a child. Okay.
Right, but that was also
Hamptons.
a part of the show is that we were forced to grow up very, very fast in the city.
Yeah. Yes,
so I
and
think
yes.
there was definitely a part of us that both did.
Here, Ali on life and death issues. What is more important, a pair of stupid shoes or a handbag or a life?
Was that me or was that Ali?
It says Ali.
Wait, let me see the picture.
There's a picture of Ali. But listen, this is BuzzFeed. I don't know if they fact-checked. No offense, BuzzFeed.
I think that was me.
Really? Okay.
Or maybe, I mean, like, look, it's split.
Yeah, like, and I'm not so sure that picture matches that quote.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was me. I'm
no.
trying, like, I don't want to, like.
It might have been you.
Or maybe it was Ali. I don't know. But that was when we were talking about our friend Lizzie, who's still my best friend to this day. I have to shout
Lizzie
out to
Grubman?
her. She just, what?
Lizzie Grubman?
No.
You see how excited?
Lizzie.
You see where my sick mind goes?
No, my best friend Lizzie, she was like our third. If you're familiar with the show, Lizzie was our third best friend. And Lizzie and I had, it was hard being a group of three girls on the show together. Lizzie and I are still best friends. Lizzie just had a beautiful baby girl. But we were doing charitable work in Ethiopia at the time. And I actually think we were genuine. I think we were looking at images of female genital mutilation and realizing how much money we were spending on things in our life that, for $500 pair of shoes, which is what really the good shoes cost back then, that we could actually contribute. So I think was like a very genuine conversation. And, the world laughed at it. But I think it was actually a pretty beautiful moment where we were literally like, wow.
I could see all that.
We're totally jaded.
Okay, we'll quickly do these before we run out of time. This is just kind of funny. Tommy Hilfinger this is just Tommy going through Ali's closet. What is this? You bought this from Ralph Lauren? It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I remember
Jaime's like, David, you're a shallow, sick person.
No, that was very funny. My aunt owned a store in Seattle, and we went to her store, and we found the runway. Ralph Lauren had done a ball gown skirt made out of denim, and my aunt had them in her store, and we got like a huge, and we were like, we need this denim. I actually ended up wearing it in our press photo shoot, but Ali bought one too, and that was...
Well, let me tell you.
Tommy was not happy. I understand.
And then he followed up with this. Hey, listen, I couldn't see Ralph Lauren helping his daughter clean her closet, so you better appreciate this. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Jaime on her own genius. It's proof that if you work hard and you don't give up, you too can get into college. I think I might write a self-help book. See? This is kind of...
I did not say this. You put the self-help.
Look, a self-help book.
Oh, BuzzFeed. Did I release? I have to. No, I'll follow up with you via email. Please. I can find that clip. And I don't think that I said anything about a self-help book. And
this foreshadows
and
the
I'm
book.
Totally qualified now to write a self-help book.
As a psychotherapist, yes, you are.
So.
And then I just have to say, I mean, this one has nothing to do with you, but then we'll go back to the book and then we'll end. I mean, this is kind of funny, Ali, about getting on her private plane. I'm just like really, really grateful that my parents were able to provide us with the safety of having a private plane. It's kind of funny.
I was grateful too. Those were some fun flights.
So I just thought, self-help. Now you are writing a self-help book.
Well, it's not a self-help book. I mean, there will be,
like
I think, elements of it that may help, but it's a memoir. It is.
So you're going to keep me, you know what, you will come back on when your book comes out. When you finish it, you can come back on in general. Yeah. Two very final things quickly. One, do you have any interest, this is for your own plug, do you have any interest in talking about your other little side business?
Yeah, this just happened. I actually bought you a present. So I went through, this was,
you're the first guest to ever bring me a present.
Well, this is, I went through the worst 6 months of my life for very, very many reasons, and it was the darkest. This is 6 months ago, and my best friend in LA, she's into crafting and started beading in a hard time of her life, and so I went out there kind of to escape for a week and get some TLC from my best friend, and she said, Jaime, you must sit down and bead. And as a therapist, I have so many coping skills, and like I know how to try to like get my shit together.
See, mine is just vodka. I mean, I'm good. I'm honest. It's coffee.
We'll
talk.
I get it. Whatever. But
I'm being honest.
As you should. No shame in whatever works for you. So, so I went through this really dark time, and she, was like, sit and bead, and it was the only thing that like got my mind off of what was going on, and was, after work. And I have a lot of friends who are very well connected, and I started putting the beads on Instagram, not even with the intention to sell, just kind of. I've been obsessed with rainbows since I was a child.
Love a rainbow.
And a friend in fashion saw it, and now I have e-commerce, and their stores are reaching out to me, and the line is called Live Rainbowfully, and it really is my love of rainbows and all things sparkly, plus I want to say like my love of writing, because I use letter beads, and I really try to make them either cheeky or from my therapeutic side, like really encouraging. Like right now I'm wearing Goddess, Healing, Love Yourself, Life is Good. What does that say? Oh, Sunshine and Rainbows, Over the Rainbow, Time to Fly. So all this. But I made you a very special one last night.
Oh my God, I'm dying.
And even though I don't watch reality TV, I did.
You understand that I do.
I understand what you do, and I actually think that you're not only like behind the velvet rope, like you are like most honorary housewife ever. So I
think so too.
So I made you this bracelet.
Oh my God. Okay, guys, it's like a rainbow bracelet, and it says housewife.
Swarovski and rainbows.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, you realize I'm actually going to wear this.
I hope so.
Oh my God. It literally,
but I really
guys,
think that like if
I'll
anyone just like you are, totally,
I'm an
honorary housewife.
It says
so
housewife.
I made you one that said housewife.
I love it.
Behind the velvet rope wouldn't fit on one bracelet. But
listen, I would rather have it say housewife. So I love this.
I think that
it's
you are
gorgeous.
Totally part of their crew, and that they are so lucky to have you.
That's very nice of you.
So
I appreciate this. I will wear it. I'm going to take a picture.
They picked a really good guy to go, to go behind the velvet rope.
I think so. And thank you.
Yeah.
I think that it's been great having you.
Wonderful. It's been an honor to,
Hopefully this, you're going to come back on because this was a lot of fun. We can talk about lots of other things.
We could talk forever. Yeah, we just scratched the surface.
This,
once my book, and it's, I have to leave some stuff.
I could sit here for the next 7 hours, but then we can
even do a thing where psychoanalyze reality stars.
Ooh.
I know we could have.
Wait. I just got when we end this show. I got to tell you.
So I'll see you guys soon. Apparently,
I just got a great idea. But in the meantime, where can we all find you so we can look at this lovely jewelry and just follow you online?
So my name, Jaime Gleicher, Instagram has links to everything.
Okay, I think that's a good place.
I'm still in the process of putting up my own site, the jewelry. But Instagram is at Live Rainbowfully.
Okay.
With, 2 L's. And then
Jaime Gleicher.
You can buy the line on shoppietra.com for now.
So everyone, go there. Remember,
go to Jaime Gleicher, Jaime Gleicher, and you can find links to my Live Rainbowfully there, my Jaime the Therapist Instagram, and I'm also big into dog rescue. You can follow along with my zoo, which is 3 three-legged dogs, 1 one-legged dog, and a cat.
I love it. And for me, at David Yontef, you can book me on Cameo. And remember, because no one seems to believe me, that I actually am tired, Jaime, and I do want to stay in. Even though you are meeting me out backstage at Orfeh, I think I had 2 or 3 drinks in me that night, too.
I think you need to come over and bead with me and just shoot the shit and talk about the stuff we can't talk about here.
I would love to. As long as
off the record.
We got to stay in. Because
yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm talking PJs.
You have no idea. And we're doing that because let me tell you, that's the night that I really want. I really want a night like that. And we're going to do it. But guess what? Yeah. All the other nights.
I only really go out for Orfeh and Andy.
No, I love it.
Yeah. I like to stay in.
I love Orfeh and Andy. No, but the other nights when I'm not doing that with you, guess what? As much as I want to do that. Right. I first put my big girl pants on and I force myself out the door. You know why, right? Because I, David Yontef, can best serve all you listeners behind the velvet rope. Thanks, Jaime.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
They